Welcome to Northern Tales, where silence is broken and every woman's story finds its way back to her own voice. Our story today is called When Respect Changed Hands. Zainab was 42 the day she finally told herself the truth. Not out loud, not to anyone, just to the woman staring back at her in the mirror. The room was quiet, but Zainab felt another kind of quiet deep in her soul. A silence, the kind of silence that only comes when everyone else's life seems to have moved on without you. Her phone lay face down on the bed. No missed calls, no messages asking if she was okay. Another face, another episode of quietly ignoring her before he comes back. Running again. She smiled at herself. Running, she thought. If she was being truthful, the man has been running away from her, not towards her. And strangely, for the first time in years, that absence felt like relief. She had attended her youngest sister's wedding 2 weeks earlier, smiled through it, danced, posed for pictures, endured the whispered prayers from aunties who meant well, and the pitying looks from cousins who didn't know what to say. Allah's time is the best, they told her. But Allah's time had never asked her to wait 17 years for a man who kept finding reasons not to choose her. Zainab had met Abu during her second year at the university. She had come home for Eid holidays. The town was alive, drumming, laughter, the dust of celebration rising as horses paraded through the streets during the Hawan Sallah. She remembered adjusting her scarf, laughing with friends, feeling young and limitless. That was when she saw him, older, confident, well dressed, from a good family, wealthy in the quiet way that didn't need announcing. He looked at her once and smiled. They introduced themselves. She told him she was in her second year of law in university. Barrister, he called her teasingly, though she was still years away from the title. The name stayed. So did he. For the first 2 years, loving Habu felt effortless. He showed up, called, listened, spoiled her in small ways, careful ways, made her feel chosen, protected, seen. He spoke of the future with certainty, as if it were already written. She fell for him hard and fast. Then one evening, everything changed. He arrived at her family house with red eyes and a broken voice. Zainab, I didn't plan this. My father forced me. They chose her, his friend's daughter. It means nothing. Please don't leave me. Her world collapsed quietly. Habu became extra loving, more attentive in the weeks leading up to his marriage to another woman. He came on the eve of his wedding. They sat on the balcony in her father's house, and he promised her he will marry her just 3 months after his wedding. Fauzia, her best friend since university, didn't miss words when Zainab told her what had happened. They had met in their first year in university, two girls sharing lecture notes, late night worries, and dreams that felt limitless back then. Fauzia had always been the braver one, the one who spoke the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. Zainab had been the listener, the believer. Leave him now, Fauzia said without raising her voice. This is how it starts. Zainab laughed it off at the time. They were young. Habu loved her. He had promised. Surely this was just a test. One of those things people endured before life settled into place. But Fauzia didn't laugh. She never did when it mattered. Zainab tried. For 3 months after the wedding, she held herself together with sheer will, counting days, silencing questions, reminding herself of his promise. Then the 3 months passed and nothing happened. When Habu finally came back, it wasn't with a date or a plan. It was with regret, with explanations, with his mother's voice folded into his own. She says, I'm still young, he told her quietly. That 2 wives now will bring trouble. Just give it time. He sounded tired, convincing, almost reasonable. I will marry you after you finish university, he swore. This marriage means nothing to me. Just wait. So she waited. Back in the present, she sat on the edge of the bed and exhaled slowly. Her chest felt tight, not from grief this time, but from something else. Clarity. Zainab adjusted her scarf and reached for her handbag. The office would be expecting her soon. As a legal officer in a private firm in Bauchi, he had learned how to sound composed even when her insides were melting. Contracts, compliance, disputes, she was excellent at untangling other people's messes, just not her own. Her phone vibrated. She looked at it. Fauzia. Of course. She smiled faintly. Fauzia always knew. Married 12 years now, 3 children. A life that was loud, chaotic, imperfect, but chosen. Z, wallahi, I have told you, a man who keeps you waiting is not confused. He is not comfortable. Fauzia had said it gently, repeatedly, for years. Zainab used to defend her boo fiercely. You don't know him like I do. He has responsibilities. He's under pressure. He promised 17 years ago, 17 long years, Abu had walked into her life. Over the years, she waited for the moment he would send his family to hers, the formal step that will turn promises into something real. But that moment never came. Only reasons. First, it was his father's health. This is not the right time. Let things settle, he said. Then it was his mother's fears. She thinks involving families now will cause unnecessary pressure. Later, it was money. Ironic, given how easily it flowed elsewhere. Big things are happening in the business. Let me stabilize first. Each excuse arrived wrapped in gentleness. Each delay explained as wisdom, and Zainab defended him every time. She told her mother to be patient, reassured her sisters, smiled through questions from aunties, protected his name even as it cost her own. One by one, her siblings married, the girls first, then the boys. Even the youngest, the last born, whose wedding she had attended just 2 weeks earlier, laughing in photographs that would later feel heavy in her chest. 17 years passed like that. Weddings, children, new beginnings, all happening around her, while she remained carefully paused, waiting for a family introduction that never came. She had been young enough back then to believe that patience was proof of love. She had been young enough to believe certainty meant safety. Zainab peeled her mind from the hurtful memories and picked Fauzia's call. Z, Fauzia said, already laughing. Do you know that tomatoes have officially become gold? Zainab smiled. I warned you, soon we'll be pricing them per slice. Wallah, I went to the market yesterday and just turned back. I told the woman, keep it, my sister. Let me go and think about my life choices. They laughed, the easy, familiar kind that didn't require explanation. In the background, a child was protesting loudly. Mama, he poured water on my book. Which one of you, Fauzia, backed? Is it not you, Bala, that enjoys tasting my patience before no? Zainab could picture it, the chaos, the noise, the life. I don't know how you do it, she said softly. I don't, Fauzia replied. I just survived till bedtime. Another laugh, then a pause. I'm going to the market later, Fauzia continued. I need new veils. This old one has started embarrassing me. Come with me. Zainab hesitated for a second, out of habit, more than reason. All right, she said, I'll meet you there. Good, don't be late, and don't wear those shoes that slow you down. The call ended, leaving the room quiet again. Zainab lowered the phone and exhaled. Life was still happening, loud, expensive, messy, waiting for no one. 5 years earlier, Habu had taken a second wife. This time, the excuse was different. The business is failing, he told her. Her father has influence in government. This marriage will help us get contracts. It's not what you think. By then, Zainab had learned the language of his justification, how necessity was always dressed as sacrifice, how every decision somehow excluded her while demanding her understanding. In 17 years, Habu had 8 children. His life multiplied, wives, responsibilities, expansion, while Zainab's remained carefully contained. In the last few years, he began to go quiet. Days become weeks, weeks became months. No explanation, no fights, just absence. Then suddenly he will reappear with familiarity, with warmth, with the confidence of someone who had never truly left. And each time Zainab accepted him back without knowing how to explain it, even to herself. Not love, not hope, something softer, older, harder to name. By then, Habu was everywhere, a respected businessman, a man people trusted with their Hajj and Umrah journeys through his business, standing at the mosque offering guidance, promising reward, always promising to everyone but her. She watched his life continue to grow outward, visible, unquestioned, while hers remained suspended in a permanent almost. 2 years ago, something shifted. Not a fight, not a betrayal loud enough to point at, just exhaustion. She realized she was 40, then 41, then 42, still explaining his absence, still editing her expectations. One evening, she sat with Fauzia's children crawling over her lap, sticky fingers clutching biscuits, laughter filling the room. And it hit her. This was not jealousy. This was grief for a life she had postponed in loyalty to a man who had never paused his own. Over the years, suitors had come. There was Ibrahim, kind, steady, already settled, whose family came properly bearing respect and intention. She had said no. There was Sadiq, a widower with one child, honest about his life, patient with her hesitations. She had said no again. Each refusal had sounded reasonable at the time. Each one carried her booth name quietly inside. Now sitting there with biscuit crumbs on her wrapper and laughter filling the room, Zainab understood the truth she had avoided for years. She had not just been waiting, she had been closing doors. The grief settled gently, not bitter, not angry, just clear. She was done waiting. For the first time in 17 years, Zainab allowed herself to imagine something else. Not perfection, not grand promises, just a life that chose her back. She would open her door again, and when she married, it would not be as a consolation prize, but as a decision made in daylight. Habu was still quiet. 5 months passed without a call, without a message, without an explanation. Zainab stopped counting. It was during that silence, the longest he had ever left her in, that she met someone else. He was 62, much older, deeply religious, and clear from the first conversation. I am here for marriage, he told her calmly, nothing else. He had one wife. Years earlier, she had suffered a stroke and now lived mostly with their first daughter, who cared for her. Taking a second wife was not a secret, or not a win. It was discussed, accepted, done with dignity. He was kind, generous without performance, wealthy without explanation. I don't want more children, he said honestly, but it would be unfair to deny you that. If Allah wills it for you, I will not stand in the way. I will go to any extent for your happiness. For the first time in her life, no one asked Zainab to shrink her future to fit his present. She said yes. When Fauzia found out, she wanted to call Abu immediately to tell him what he lost, she said. Zainab shook her head. We haven't spoken in more than 5 months, she replied. I'm done. There was no grand celebration, no announcement, just a quiet nikah at the mosque. And then she moved into her husband's house. His children came to greet her, respectful, warm, welcoming, all of them, except one. The fifth daughter's husband was away on business. When he returned days later, he came with his wife. It was Habu. Zainab met his eyes once, briefly, calmly. She smiled, not with triumph, not with bitterness, but with peace. Habu froze. For a moment, the confidence that had carried him for years deserted him. His mouth opened slightly, as if searching for words that had always come easily before. Explanations, delays, promises. None arrived. Zainab inclined her head in greeting, the way one does with an acquaintance, then turned back to the woman beside her. There was no accusation in her eyes, no questions, no invitation to speak, only closure. Without lifting a finger, Zainab won. She was now mother-in-law, the gatekeeper, the woman no longer waiting, holding the future he once controlled in the calm of her own hands. You've been listening to Northern Tales, stories of women who waited, endured, and finally chose themselves. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in another story.